I'm gonna pick 5. This was on here the whole time. Cool. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy. With maybe the worst idea I've ever had. Today I want to do a book recommendations video, but I wanted to do something different and unique. So this is what I came up with and I'm not sure it's gonna work, so we'll see. But I thought I'd recommend you books based on cards. So this deck of 70 card deck and guidebook based on like the Literary Witches is what it's called. This was given to me by my best friend for my birthday. I've had it for a while, and one day it kind of like, the deck reminds me very like fall-esque, and so I thought this would be a great time to like pick books based on the cards. So we're gonna pick the cards, I'm gonna pick 5 cards, and based on the card and kind of what the guidebook says about the card, I'm gonna recommend you a book based on it. So like I said, it might be the worst idea I've ever had. This might be a total flop of a video, but it looked like fun and I thought, why not? So we're gonna pick the cards right now. So I'm gonna pick 5 cards here and we're gonna talk about what they mean, and then I'm gonna come back after I've had a think and recommend some books for you. But this deck has 2 types of cards. You've got like the people cards, and then you've got cards with like animals and things on it. So I need to shuffle these. These are some large cards. But I've had these for a while and they've just been hanging out on my shelf because like I don't know what to do with them. And this idea literally came to me when I was staring at my bookshelves one day. Probably should have been doing something productive, but wasn't. Here is the very large deck. I'm not looking at them. This is gonna end real well. All right, here we go. I'm not looking at them, so let's do this one. Okay, this one is, oh, of course I picked someone I can't pronounce. So this is Annis Nin. It's called The Subconscious. So it says in here, Annis Nin is the subconscious, the unexplored, submerging, surfacing. And then it goes on to tell you a little bit about who she is. As an adult and pair, she forged a fluid new literature of female consciousness, but her chief ancestry is in the Norlid works. Nin's fiction and her masterpiece, A Lifelong Diary, explore the fractured self, her complicated feelings for her father, psychoanalysis, love, and adventures of all sorts. So like, this to me screams, you think a lot about your feelings and exploring the unknown. Okay, so that's our first card. Card number 2. Okay, let's do this one. This one is Octavia E. Butler. Oops, The Future. This card is for Octavia E. Butler and it says The Future on it. And this is imagining, planning, worrying about the future. She wrote a lot of sci-fi. That's kind of what I was thinking. Okay, I can work with that one. That one I can work with. Let's go here. Oh, we got the Praying Mantis. So the Praying Mantis card is wit, manipulation, and fun. Card number 4. Oh, we got the Eel. So the Eel is what lurks, electricity, and dishonesty. One more. The last one that we're gonna recommend a book based on is, I'm gonna drop all of these on the floor. Let's do something in here. The Skull. The Skull is transitions, reality, and grief. Okay, so these are the, failing over here. These are the 5 cards that we picked out in this deck, and let me go have a think and then we'll come back and I'll tell you what books I think would work best for these, or what books would be good based on what the cards mean. Okay, so it is later, and I've had some thinking time. So let's see my predictions and see what you guys think about them. I think I've come up with some pretty decent recommendations. So as you remember, our very first card was Annis Nin, the subconscious card. And according to the little booklet, this one is the unexplored, submerging, surfacing. She was really into, she did a lifelong diary, so it was very like diving into your own history and making things very real seeming. And so for me, I decided to pick up Milk and Honey by Ruby Kaur. I also think that The Sun and Her Flowers, her second poetry book, would also work really, really well. Honestly, it's the author more than the physical book, but this one to me is a little harsher than her second book. Whoa. This one to me is a little harsher than her second book, so I'm gonna go with this one, mostly because like it's very real, it's very raw. She like lays out her life. Make sure you look up trigger warnings before you read this book, because like everything is in here, so like double check before you go in. But it's poetry, it's a poetic book. It's sometimes they are small like this, sometimes they are entire pages. I'm trying to see if I can find like a good one for you, but they hit hard. Like sometimes you've got long ones like this, but they really hit and they don't hold back on anything. So like, I don't know, there's just something that I got. The vibe of her and her bio really reminded me of this book. The next one that we pulled out of the deck was another author card, and that is Octavia E. Butler. And her little thing at the bottom says the future, but her bio is a little more explaining imagining, planning, worrying about the future, that kind of stuff. She was known for sci-fi. So I actually have two answers for this one, because I think that two books work really, really well. The first one that I'm going to talk about is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. This is a deep dive classic sci-fi where you really think about happiness and kind of what that means. And this is a dystopian, basically, looking at the future, but it's got a lot of intense themes dealing with the future and kind of like this could be a version of our future. The other one that I have for her is actually, I think it's an adult book, but I think it's adult, but it's called Here and Now and Then by Mike Chen. I think I read this one last year sometime. Basically, it's about a guy who travels through time, and he gets stuck in his past, which is the 1990s, and so he ends up getting married, creating a family, having a kid, that kind of stuff, and then he gets called to come back to his present, which is the future, which I believe is 2142, and then in 2142 he has a family there as well, or he's got a fiance there, and so it's just kind of like struggling with the past versus the present versus the future. And I just think that that really works very well with, you know, struggling with the future and thinking about the future and that kind of stuff, because like it dives into a lot of things with time travel and like what can happen when you do things you probably shouldn't. So those are the two that I'm gonna say for her. The next one that we picked up was Praying Mantis, which is wit, manipulation, and fun. And this one was interesting for me because I feel like an entire series would work for this, but I'm going to choose one specifically. And the one that I think that you will like if you want something like that is The White Queen by Philippa Gregory. But honestly, anything in her Plantagenet Tudor England series I think would work really, really well, because that's what the Tudor court was. It was all about manipulation, and you had to have wit, and you had to have like the smarts to deal with like the political climate that it was, but also like his courts were incredibly party focused, and like he had a lot of fun being a king, even though like the people who maybe were in his court didn't have so much fun because, like, you know, lots of them died. But I think that this one specifically, because like this is before Henry VIII took power. This is during the like York versus Lancaster part, so Plantagenet England, but it follows Elizabeth Woodville, who basically like manipulates her way into being queen. I think this one's really well just because that's what she does. She manipulates her way from being nobody to being queen, and she is a Lancaster, and the one who is king is a York, and the Lancasters and the Yorks don't really get along. So a lot of people are worried about her being queen. So yeah, I think that works really, really well, because she took a lot of wit and a lot of manipulation, in a sense, to become queen. And then, you know, when she was a queen, you had fun because you were in a court. So that's my answer for praying mantis. So the next one that we picked out of the deck was eel, and this is what lurks, electricity, and dishonesty. So this one was really hard for me to pick something from, but I think I figured it out. And I'm going to, again, do an entire series, not just one. And for that, I'm going to be doing the Darkest Minds series. This is the first one by Alexandra Bracken. I loved this series so much. There are 3 in the series. It is Darkest Minds, Never Fade, and In the Afterlight. Sorry, I was trying to read it, but it's all the way on the bottom. But this is a sci-fi dystopian type of world where, like, all the kids have powers, and one of the powers is electricity, so like that's where it comes in. But like there is a lot of dishonesty in this world, because like the kids are trying to figure out how they became where they are, and especially within the first book there's a lot of dishonesty in like what you think is safe versus what is not actually safe. This is a great series. I honestly really liked this series quite a bit. This was made into a movie a few years ago, and I think it was a very well done adaptation. But there's just a lot of like slippery, slimy, dishonest things and people in this series. So that worked for me. I thought this one was going to be a very good option for eel. So there you go. And the very last card that we got was Skull, and that is transitions, reality, and grief. Those are the 3 kind of keywords that go with this one. And so the book that I have, honestly, I think works really, really well, and that is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This follows 2 girls who have the same father but don't know it, and at the beginning of the book the father dies in a plane crash, and that kind of like brings the 2 of them together. So it deals with grief, but it deals with grief in totally different ways, but it's also a transition part of their lives for lots of reasons, and I don't want to say a lot of them because I think some of them are spoilers, but there's a lot of like transitional moments within this book that I think this would be like a good keyword for. But there's definitely quite a lot of transitional moments within this book, whether it's like transitioning with yourself, whether it's, you know, transitioning in your life now that this person that meant so much to you isn't there anymore. There's just a lot of transitions, basically. And then also, like, the other word was reality. Just dealing with the reality of, like, what happens if the person that you love maybe isn't this saint, angel person you thought they were. So, I don't know, these 3 really stuck with me for this book specifically. So, that's the one that I'm going to use with the Skull. So, that's basically all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed somewhat. Let me know if this is interesting to you at all. If you liked it, there could be a part 2 coming, but like, this also might be a terrible idea. Nobody wants to watch this. So like, let me know your thoughts. But that's all I have for you guys today, so I do hope you enjoyed a little bit. Again, let me know down below. But if you did like this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you want to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there as well if you want to follow along on any of those. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!